Hi everyone, this is Rob from RuinWorks again, coming at you with our latest release. This one is the Patreon voter release for February 2024. It is the boss room Crypts. The idea here is that it's going to be a bigger open space room for a battle with a major villain of some type. Again, I started off thinking that way, and eventually I came up with this map, which has ended up being a bit bigger than I expected, and a bit more detail thrown in there as well, so that's why it took me a bit longer. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this scene is 3 levels, so I'll open up the levels UI. Here you can see our lower altar level, our main floor or entrance level, and then our upper level, which is a series of catwalks. So zooming in, I guess I'll start from the top and head downwards. Zooming in at the catwalk level, you can see all these paths here are where your players can walk, and it has a good view down into the level below the main entrance level. In the middle of the scene, in the bottom portion of the map, there's a stair up with an interaction point to get up, and then these catwalks will lead up to the north part, or the top part of the map, where there are some customization options as well as some ability to change the catwalks, have them break, or set them as traps if you prefer. So first, just down here, this bottom section of the map is kind of the actual catacombs portion of the crypt. So here there's a bunch of sepulchres with bones or bodies inside of them. These are all customizable. There's 12 different variations for sepulchres, and the only way to change them is you just double click, and I've put little notes closer to them here. Double click sepulchres to cycle the image. So if you just take the corner of it, you can double click, and each one of them can be altered between the 12 variations. I can quickly run through them all. You can see there's some that are empty, some that are skeletons, some are wrapped bodies. I tried to give a good variation of different things so you could do with it as you saw fit. I will note one thing here when I'm going through the sepulchres is that if you go down to the entrance level, I've used the same ones here on this level as well. They're all activated by double clicking. If you're on the upper level and you happen to double click where there's a sepulcher on the level below, you can just see it here where these candles are. If I double click at the top of this sepulcher, it's going to change both of them because these tiles overlap. So the only thing I'll point out is you might want to change the upper level sepulchers. If I double click closer to the middle, and then if you're on the entrance level, do it closer to the outside, and that way you won't change both of them at the same time. If you happen to click kind of on the outside of the upper level, you might change the one below. So just a little thing to watch out for there. Here I'll note on this level, put invisible walls along the railings of the catwalks just so your players aren't running off floating into the air. Usually I don't do this, and I trust you to decide where your players can and cannot walk, but just because it's such an error likely scenario in this specific location, I did put invisible walls along the edges of the catwalk so players can't just venture off them without you helping them move off of it. Another customization here we can do is you can light these braziers. So I've noted here they're double right click, not double left click, again because they might interfere with the double clicking of the sepulchres, so I had to make it a bit of a different activation. So you just double click them, the image will change as well as the lights will shut on and off. So the main idea behind these braziers was that they would provide lighting around this staircase on the lower floor as well. If I turn it on and go down to the entrance level, you will note that there is these kind of floating lights. That's just to show that the braziers above are lighting down below. So these 2 lights around the stairway will turn on and off along with the braziers above. So if I turn these off, you can see the lights below have also deactivated. The catwalks of this level extend over the northern part or the top part of the map as well. And here we have a few customization options. So first I'll touch on this bridge node B5 and B6, and then the columns or staircases C1 upper and C2 upper. So column 1 upper and column 2 upper. We'll just focus on the column 1s, and you'll just understand that it works the same way for number 2. You can, like I've set up in other maps, set traps on the walkway at B5 and B6. They are controlled by the control panels in the left and right margins respectively. So for our control panel bridge 5, right now we're set to intact and the trap is off, so you don't see any hashed area. When the hashed area is showing, that'll indicate that the trap is active. So first we just have our intact bridge. If I hit the broken button, you can see the floor changes up on this level and rubble appears below, and that's actually rubble on level lower in the altar level. So it'll make an image change down below. So this could be used for various things. This could be a trap for people walking across the walkway, or it could be a trap for those beneath it, as it is rigged to fall on them when they are underneath it. If we just turn the trap on, it'll automatically change the images back to the correct position for the trap to work. And if you look closely, you can see there is a hashed tile here, so anytime a token walks in, the trap will trigger. So we have a token up beside B5. We can see the trap is active because of this hashed area that is showing. If we take our token and enter the trapped area, you will be provided a prompt indicating that someone's entered the trap and asking if you want to activate it. If you hit no, nothing happens, nothing changes. So there's always that back out possibility if you weren't expecting it. And now if we take the token in, again, we can hit yes. Sound will play, animations will change. While the game is paused, you can ask your player to make a saving throw, and then depending on that, you can click yes or no. So if you hit yes, your token's elevation will be changed to elevation -15, so that would place them on the altar level, the lower level. If you hit no, nothing will happen, so I'll hit yes just to demonstrate. Now he's down on the altar level at elevation -15. Going back up to elevation 15 for the upper level catwalks, so that was just the bridge 5. Bridge 6 will work very similarly. If you hit reset, the trap will reset and all the images will reset as well. And the other option you can do here is the column 1 upper, so that's the column and this kind of circular staircase. Right now, if we take our token to the circular staircase, he can descend it down to elevation 0 and show up on the catwalks below, and likewise climb back up using the interaction points. Now he's back on top. But the point here is right now in the left margin we have column 1 upper, C1U is currently in the intact stage. If we click the broken, you can see that the staircase is now gone, as well as the bridge connecting to it. So that's as though this column has been broken in the middle above elevation 0. And you can also see that the interaction points that were used to climb up and down are now missing. This interaction point here is actually to go from elevation 0 down to -15. So if our token here tries clicking on it, nothing is happening. So that's a way of also altering the scene by destroying the upper half of this staircase. And that would also work similarly for C2 upper on the right. So I'll just zoom in a bit, and if I go broken, you can see the image changed to gone, and then rubble appears on the ground and the interaction points are gone. If we hit intact instead, you can see the interaction points show up and the column itself reappears. However, the bridge is not fixed, so that would have to be done manually. You'd have to go to bridge 6 and hit the intact variation. And then I'll just demonstrate here for C1 upper, this column can also be returned to intact. Clicking the intact button, now it is there, and the interaction points are once again working for this guy. So if I want to make this bridge whole again, you can just hit the bridge 5 intact variation. So that's how the bridge traps and columns work on the upper level. It's going to be similar when we get down to the entrance level for those bridges and columns there. There's no trap associated with the column. That is more an idea of mine. If you have maybe a large beast down here that hits the column, it might knock it over and cause all the platforms around it to fall down. And then your tokens would also have to be moved down to elevation 0. And maybe players who were once hiding up on the catwalks who thought they were safe are now dragged down to the bottom, take falling damage. Another customization option here is this hanging grate. So you see up in the top, there's the hanging grate control bar. So right now it's set to none. It would show up right here in the middle. So if we choose the brazier variation, you can see this hanging grate kind of appears between the catwalks, dangling there. We also have a crystal variation. So my idea is sort of some sort of necromantic crystal sacrifice. So maybe this person was killed for some foul, nefarious deeds, or the life essence of them is being drawn out through some sort of ritual below. You can also have it empty, so in case they rescue the person or hijack the crystal or put out the fire. And then if your players decide they need to break this hanging grate, there's also fallen variations of the hanging grate on both sides. Just note that this tile is also set as an overhead tile on the level below, so you can kind of see it faded out here just to demonstrate that players below might be able to see it. So specifically, my idea with this was maybe the big bad evil guy is working on the altar on the lower level, but somehow drawing power out of this gem. And maybe this gem, he is raising the dead, so zombies and skeletons keep on pouring out of this catacombs area at the bottom of the scene while this stone is active, and making it hard for the PCs to actually fight the big bad guy. And so in order to even the odds, your players might have to come up to this third level, either destroy the stone or otherwise deactivate it so that they have an easier time fighting the bad guy below. Just thought it might make a cool kind of staged battle for a boss battle. That's kind of the idea I was going for. I also left this empty variation, so if you want to put something else up there or describe something else, you have that option. If we go down to the entrance level now, I'll just start at the bottom of the scene again. So here we, like I mentioned before, all the sepulchres are customizable via double click, 12 different variations that you can use. Also note that on this level there are little candle icons. Just single click candle icons to turn the candles off and on. These aren't like regular lights just because there are also tiles associated with them. So find one here. I have one that has a bit more color added into it, so it'll hide and show the tile when you click on the candle icons. So you can just single click any or all the candles on. I imagine these candles were used by relatives of the dead buried here. They've kind of either come to worship them or pay their respects, and have kind of decorated the place with what could be religious symbols or lists of the dead. That's also the idea behind these brownish plaques in the middle. They would probably list some of the heroes or people who are buried within these crypts. And then just down at the bottom here, this is where I imagine the scene entrance. So either a set of stairs could come down, land here, or maybe your players would open a set of double doors and then appear on the other side in this room. All the braziers on this room are also clickable, so if you double click the brazier, it'll change their image and add firelight. And then running through the halls of this part of the catacombs is drainage. I assume this is somewhere deep underground, so likely there will be water ingress into the place, and so these drains were put in place. More of just a design choice, but that's the reason they're there. And then if we go up to the top of the scene, we have our bridge controls as well as our column 2 controls, or column 1 and 2 controls. So these function much the same as the upper catwalks. So if you're looking at bridge 4 here and you go to the broken variation, it changes the image and puts rubble on the bottom floor. If you set the trap on, you can see the hashed square now appears here, and the trap will function the same as the traps I demonstrated for the upper level. And then column 2 functions the same way. It'll eliminate all of the interaction points here. However, when you click it, a sound will play. Rubble will appear for both the bridges on this elevation as well as the bridge from the upper level, and it'll destroy the column on the upper level at the same time. This is simply because if you destroy the foundation of the column, everything above it's going to fall down as well. So if you break the column on the entrance level, it'll break the column above it as well as the bridge above it. So all three are broken at once with that simple click. If you want to put it back in, you can hit the intact button, but that only puts in the stairway tile and interaction points there. If you want the bridges to return to their intact state, you would have to do those individually, as well as the ones on the upper floor. You'd have to do the column and the bridge 6 as well, and then everything is put back together. I mentioned as well the entrance level catwalks kind of look down over this altar area, which is another level lower, 15 feet I've put. So these would be good access points for archers or rogues to sneak along and target whatever's happening down here in the altar level. I will note, if you do decide to break everything and you don't want to bother going through each and every control, you can just hit the master reset at the top, which will set everything to the intact variations. So you click that and it fixes them all for you automatically. That's just a quick button, essentially just triggers all the other intact buttons. So then lastly, we'll go down to the lower level, the altar level. So this is a bit of a smaller level. This is where I imagine the big bad evil guy would reside, and you would be able to fight him here in this room, have lots of maneuverability. And there are various customization options available here on the lower level. First off, we have our sarcophaguses. So there's an interaction point that'll allow players to open the sarcophagus. The lid is customizable between 5 different variations, so that can be done by double clicking on the transform buttons. If you just double click, it'll change the lid between a bunch of different variations. And one of the variations is transparent. And once a transparent variation is selected, you can use the second transform button that is now visible to change the interior of the sarcophagus, again by double click, and there's 8 different options you can choose for the inside of these sarcophaguses. So that's the same for all 4 of the sarcophagi on this level. And then we come to our main feature in the middle, which is this altar area. If you look up at the top of the margin here on this level, you'll see there's our altar options in green at the top left. So I'll just go through them all quickly. We have our candle-filled altar. This will update the images as well as the lights. We have our sacrificial altar, skull altar, our coffin, which is empty. You might not be able to tell it's empty because I have an interaction point here to remove the lid, but if you do remove the lid, you'll see it's empty. Then there's a coffin with a dead body in it. So maybe the ritual is to raise this guy from the dead. Maybe it's a lich or something, or an ancient necromancer that people are trying to revive. After that, we have the magic circle variation. And then lastly, we have empty if you want something else to be residing down here. And then lastly, we got kind of a couple of just add-ons. The first one is this statue brazier. This appears as an overhead tile, so tokens will walk underneath these statue braziers, and it works with all the other variations. And then if you do choose the coffin variation, I removed the tile of the lid manually, but if you want to cycle the lid state so you can see inside, you can just do that manually with this little button on the top here. And then I go over essentially everything I mentioned to you here in my journal guide. That's it. I think the next release is going to be called the Mawbone Cemetery. Just keeping on theme with this. That'll be out for the end of February. I hope you guys like it. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.